It's Judy Hopps, the tough bunny gal that saved Zootopia. And today we're going to be talking about Judy Hopps action figures because I love Zootopia and I love collecting knickknacks, and I've been buying pretty much all of the Zootopia figurines that I could get my hands on. I want to preface this by saying this is by no means a definitive guide. I do not have all of the rare and collectible Zootopia figures and statues, but I do have quite a few Judys, and I thought it would be fun just to look through them all and decide which are the good cop Judys and which are the bad cop Judys. And I thought the perfect one to start with would be the PVC Figure Hero, because this was the first Judy I had in my collection. In early 2016, I went to the Disney store and bought the PVC figure set, really without knowing anything about the movie. I just really liked the designs. And you know what? It's a really good figure set, and this Judy is actually one of the best they've ever made. Granted, she is not articulated, so it's not much of an action figure, but the sculpting on this is phenomenal. The pose they chose, while not action-oriented, fits Judy. She's sassy, she's got her hand on her hip, and she's showing her badge as if she is telling someone, say a clever fox, that he is not above the law. And the detail on this is phenomenal. One thing this figure gets right that no other Zootopia figure does is it gets Judy's proportions correct. Look how exaggerated her limbs are, how thin her arms are. These proportions would be very difficult to do on an articulated figure, especially one designed with child's play in mind. So on a pre-posed figure, you can be a bit more fragile with things like an arm here that is very spindly. So this is a solid Judy and is still readily available. I was actually surprised to go into a Target the other day and see this Zootopia PVC set being freshly re-released all of these years later. But hey, why fix what ain't broke? So PVC Judy, you are a good cop, Judy. And moving on to another PVC from the set, it's young Judy as a child, and this one is a bit more of a miss. Do you remember the opening of Zootopia, when Judy is a kid, and she's at the talent show, dressed as a cop, and she stands up to Gideon? It's a pretty great, iconic moment, one you would want to recreate in toy form. Unfortunately, you can't do that, because this Judy, as you can see, is not in a police hat and uniform. She's wearing a t-shirt and has, like, a police badge on. And even her head does not look accurate. Like, this doesn't look like the child Judy seen in the film. It looks a little off. So what's going on here? Well, this PVC comes from an earlier cut of the movie, the infamous color cut, as the fans call it, or simply the pre-production cut of Zootopia. It had a different opening sequence where Judy, as a child, rescues a cat from a tree, and a ZPD officer watches her do it and gives her a sticker of a police badge. At least that's what I remember from memory. I may be completely wrong, but I swear there was a deleted opening that was like that, and that's what this figure is from. Zootopia had a pretty crazy production, and many of the toys featured characters and outfits that were cut from the movie. So this one is a bit of a fail because it's not from the film. Moving on to Tomy's Zootopia line. This was the main line of Zootopia action figures for the film, and it's a pretty solid line of toys. I did do a video all about the history of this line, so if you want to collect the Tomy Zootopia line, check that video out. Unfortunately, Judy was one of the characters that suffered from the line. Something they did was they wanted all of the animals to scale with each other, so that the elephants would be bigger than the bunnies, who were smaller than the polar bears. And we got some very nice, solid figures, like Clawhauser and the polar bear that Mr. Big has as a bodyguard, but unfortunately, Judy suffered because of that, because she is really small in order to scale with the other characters. Not counting the ears, she's only like 3 inches tall, barely, actually pretty much the same size as the PVC figure. So there's not much you can do with a small figure with limited articulation. Another thing I think this figure does not do correctly is the detail. There's a lot of detail in this sculpt. You can see her fur is sculpted and textured. Her uniform has all sorts of creases, cuts. Look at the socks, the kind of like webbing there. It's pretty amazing how much detail is in this sculpt, much more than the PVC. And I actually think that is to the figure's detriment. The detail packed onto this tiny figure looks noisy and messy, and Judy's design just does not look and flow as smoothly as it should. If you look at the PVC, it captures Judy's silhouette perfectly in her exaggerated proportions, whereas the figure looks a bit baggy and bulky. The uniform also just looks a little off. Things like the badge being small. For some reason, the crop with the stomach here, notice how high up it is on the PVC, and then how low it is on the figure here. I don't know, it's just something about it just looks too bulky. Like, look at the collar here. It just looks like a stuffy uniform, like something more tactical, and I think that's unfortunate. However, Tomy came to the rescue with a redeco of Judy, and it was supposed to be a SWAT outfit, and this is made up. This is not in the movie, and this was a Target exclusive, and I actually think this saves the sculpt, because it makes sense now for Judy to be more bulky and more tactical if she's in a SWAT uniform. And things like inaccuracies with the sculpting don't bother me as much because this is a made-up outfit. And it is believable that if Judy wore to, say, join the SWAT team for whatever reason, maybe she's teaming up with Nick to discover the truth about aliens, yeah, I can see her wearing something like this. It's totally believable. So this is a fun collectible just because it's a unique version of Judy. And I do like it when the toy companies get creative and make up designs. I would love to see a whole line of Judy in different cop outfits. One other outfit we did get Judy in for a figure was her Meter Maid outfit. And it pains me to say that this is the only figure of Judy Hopps in the Meter Maid outfit. It's a pretty iconic uniform from some very important scenes in the movie. This is kind of like when the reality of being a police officer hits her, that maybe she's going to have to do some boring day work and not quite be in the action she was anticipating. And the sculpt captures this outfit flawlessly. We have the vest, the hat, the ears drooped down, which make Judy look a little sadder in the scene, and even her little ticketing machine is sculpted. So this figure is a huge win. I think it's very fun, but I do want to see more merchandise of her in the Meter Maid uniform because it is just such a fun outfit that you don't see on enough stuff. So with the Tomy Judys, I would say the regular one's probably the weakest of the three. Just use the Disney Store figure and then use the other outfits. Thankfully, we have a lot more Judys to go. So moving on to the other company that made a lot of merchandise for the original film, we have Funko, who gave us two different Judy Hopps figures. First off is the Pop Vinyl, and I am not big on Pops. I'm just not a Pop Vinyl guy, but as somebody that loves animations and cartoons, I find myself owning a lot of these because they make all the characters I love, and it's a figure of Judy, so I had to buy it. Now, I really don't have any complaints with the accuracy of this one. The outfit looks pretty good. The head looks accurate. Like, this is Judy as a Pop Vinyl. My only real complaint is that this was pretty early into Pop Vinyl. This was like 2016, and Funko hadn't quite got their groove on yet. If you look at more recent Pops, they're a lot more dynamic. They usually have mouths now, thank goodness, but this is from the mouthless original Pop era, and she just looks a little unsettling. Now, the Mystery Minis Judy fared a lot better. What's interesting about this one is that the sculpting of Judy, which, as you can see, is very stylized, not accurate at all, but very original, is not actually a Funko design, but rather the version of Judy that Disney used on a lot of products. So when a movie comes out, you usually have something called key art or promotional art that are basically stills of the character you put onto various pieces of merchandise, like lunch boxes and water bottles and things like that. With CGI movies, like Shrek, for instance, a franchise I'm very familiar with, you have 3D renders that you put on everything. But for whatever reason, Zootopia did not get that treatment. It did have some 3D renders that were used on products, obviously, but a lot of the stuff, like the bedding, the school supplies, all of the auxiliary product, if you would, featured original 2D versions of the Zootopia characters drawn by Disney internally. And these were very stylized. They almost look like, I don't know, something between an emoji and a Rankin Bass puppet, if you're familiar with the Rankin Bass Christmas specials. And the Funko Mystery Minis translated those designs into 3D. So we have a Judy here that is very Rankin Bass-esque. She looks like she's from one of those classic Christmas specials. And I don't mind the stylization. It definitely is different, that's for sure. My only complaint about this figure is how hard she was to get. I bought these blind boxes when they came out. I bought a whole bunch of them, and I just remember ending up with a lot of doubles of Mr. Big and Flash the Sloth, and not getting any Nick or Judy's. So don't buy the blind boxes, buy them loose and opened, and you'll be able to get a very interesting Judy figure. Okay, now we have the Disney Infinity Judy, and this figure is pretty interesting. This was obviously the Toys to Life figure, so it's more of a video game accessory than a proper toy. You just kind of tap this on the base, and you get to play as Judy in-game. But what's interesting is that this is, again, based off that earlier cut of the movie, the darker version of the film, where Judy was, as you can see, locked and loaded. Judy originally open-carried a gun, a tranquilizer gun, to be specific, throughout the entirety of the film. I think this was replaced in the movie by the Fox spray, but I guess the idea was that she had this gun and that it intimidated Nick Wilde. Disney cut it out because they felt it was a little too dark and scary, but not before the Disney Infinity figure released with it. So very interesting, not only as a collectible of the original cut of the movie, but as a pre-posed figure. As you can see, she's not articulated. I do like that she's sculpted differently. I think if this figure was made after the movie, they obviously would have gone with a pose that doesn't involve the gun. Maybe something more like this. But as it is, we get a figure of a version of Judy from a different version of the movie, and that is pretty interesting. Also, the sculpting on this is just wonderful. I love how geometric and cartoony she looks. Judy almost looks like she's the new playable class in Team Fortress. It's just very stylized, and I totally dig it. Okay, now we have the Barnes & Noble Storybook Judy. So this was included as a freebie if you bought the Zootopia Storybook at the bookstore. And it's tough to be harsh on this one because it's a pack-in with a book, but yeah, this figure is just not good at all. She's got her arms crossed, but the sculpt is so soft that it just kind of looks like mush and just kind of falls apart, almost like she's missing her arms. The head is just terrible. Look at that. And for some reason, she is a brown bunny here as opposed to a gray bunny. So this is a pretty rough figure of Judy. And this is actually one of the more common figures of Judy. I see this one all the time when flea market hunting. Best to avoid. Bad cop Judy for sure. This is not good. And those are the Judys I bought back in 2016 when the movie released. I remember being really disappointed that none of them had a lot of articulation. You have the Tomy figure, which moves a bit, but I think the definition of action figure here is very loose. Thankfully, in the years since, we would get some much better Judy figures. So we'll start off with a strange one, and that is the Christmas Ornament of Judy. Now, this one was available at Tokyo Disneyland, so this is one of those tough-to-get figures here in the USA, and it just kind of gives you a peek into how much better the Zootopia figures are in other countries. This is a really accurate, really nice figure of Judy that's got the proportions. The limbs are very fragile. These would break in the hands of a child, but really nice. She is dancing and wearing a Santa hat, so not the most movie-accurate version of the character, but a nice version nonetheless. And figures like this have been releasing in other countries since 2016, and I was always disappointed that they were getting better stuff than us. So this one I got imported, and I'm very happy I did, because it is such a nice figure of Judy. But then we finally started getting some better figures of Judy. And this brings us to the Revel Tech Judy. Truly a surprise. This figure was just so amazing to see. She did originally release as a Japan exclusive, but thankfully she did come stateside via Big Bad Toy Store and other online retailers. She just wasn't stocked in, regular brick-and-mortar stores, but if you went to collector toy shops, she was briefly available in, I believe, 2018 or 19, and then she sold out very quickly and was re-released last year or the year before that. And yes, she's a figure so nice, I had to buy her twice. She's got these interchangeable faceplates that are so cool that I had to buy two so I could have one permanently sassy, because I love this sassy look so much when she's like, "It's called a hustle, sweetheart." And then I wanted one to be Happy Judy, because she's happy that she got a big old gun. Yeah, this figure has an excellent grip. She's got interchangeable hands that can hold any crazy gun and do any sort of pose that I imagine Disney would not want you doing with the figure. This was really incredible to see, and I'm so happy that this was brought over to the United States, because I tell you what, I would have paid an arm and a leg importing this. Now, at the time of this video, both US releases have sold out, and you're going to have to import her again, unfortunately, and the import fees on this figure run really high. She goes for about between, I would say, like $200 and $300 from Japan. There were some bootlegs, but I don't know. I ordered one of the bootlegs because I wanted to do a video comparing the official release to the bootleg, and my bootleg was shipped to Jamaica. Yep, and it was lost there. But she is just so cool. I would dare say this is one of my favorite action figures ever made. She is that good. Unfortunately, I think this figure may be a bit too good in some ways. So, as I said, this figure sold out quickly and is very expensive. And that sucks, because this isn't something that new fans of Zootopia can really get. And there was quite a while where this figure released stateside, and we had these, and there was no kind of like middle of the road Judy. You either had the kind of boring stuff released in 2016 or the best of the best Revel Tech figure. But a few years ago, Disney started making figures of Judy again. Actually, I'm going to bring these back into shot because this is a fun background. And we got this one, this Park Pals Judy. And yeah, it's not the most accurate figure, but I was just really happy to go to Disneyland last Christmas and see a new Judy Hopps figure. It actually made my day. And this is one that is sold exclusively at the theme parks. And what you're supposed to do is clip her here onto your t-shirt and kind of have a pal that rides around with you. I tried doing that, and the figure very quickly fell off, so out of fear of not wanting to lose this figure, I just tucked it away and put it on my shelf. But I do like the head sculpt a lot. They got the eye color, the face. Very chibi, but I do like the chibi take on this way more than the Funko Pop. It's just quintessentially Judy. And then, shortly after that, we got the Nuemo Judy figure. And yes, this is a figure, not a plush toy. This is advertised and sold as an action figure because she has a fully posable armature in her. and she's got these weights in her feet that allow her to stand. So the idea was with this line is that you would kind of like take Instagram photos of the plush at the Disney parks. They really wanted to like jump on the bandwagon of people on Instagram taking photos of action figures. Heck, this exact Judy figure became one of those figures that people just loved to pose in humorous situations. So Disney's response to that was this, and I think it does it to mixed success. It's a cute figure. I do like it. The outfit, the design is very Judy. It's just, you can't really do a lot with this articulation. I think the lack of grip in the hands really limits what you could do with a figure like this as opposed to a articulated action figure. Zootopia has had tons of plush over the years, but for me, it's figures. I am a figure guy, and I don't know, this was just kind of like, okay, but I still wanted a middle-of-the-road, nice Judy figure. Here we are in 2024, the year of Zootopia 2's announcement, and seemingly out of nowhere, with no prior fanfare, this Judy Hopps arrived at Walmart stores in the United States as part of the Mattel Disney figure line. So this is not a Zootopia figure. It's just part of a generic Disney line. And this is the figure I wanted so badly in 2016, all those years ago. Just a nice, posable, and playable Judy Hopps figure. With this one here, it feels more like a collectible than a toy. Great to pose, but obviously you wouldn't give this to a kid, and you also don't want to be too rough with it because she can snap and break very easily. But this here is the best Judy Hopps action figure at the time of recording this video. She definitely is a huge improvement over the Tomy figure. Just look at the height difference and look at the face, the sculpt, how much more this one captures the charisma of Jennifer Goodwin as Judy. It's a huge upgrade. The uniform is much more vibrant and much more colorful. Funnily enough, I still don't think it's as accurate as that original Judy figure. It's a little too light of a blue, but sometimes with these toys, I'm willing to take creative liberties because you have to ask yourself, aside from accuracy, does it function well as a toy? And while this one is more detailed, check out the ears, check out the uniform. Like, look, the knee pads aren't even painted here. The ears aren't painted. This one's way more detailed. But the new one is a better toy. It feels better. It's more fun to pose and move around. The legs, you can really do those bunny jumps and make her a police officer in action. Even the ears rotate. Unfortunately, still no gripping hand on this one, so she can't hold a rifle like this one can. But, you know, comparing these is truly like comparing apples to oranges. And while this is without a doubt the best Judy Hopps figure, it's also $200. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And this one is $8 at Walmart. So I would say if you want a Judy Hopps figure, this is the way to go. Pick up this one, and then if you really like Judy, you know, maybe get the PVC and the Disney Infinity figure. These are like my top 3 Judys because they're cheap, they're fun, they're displayable, they are nice. If you have, you know, the time and money to find this one, because it is a pretty tough figure to even find these days, then go for the Revel Tech Judy. You will not be disappointed. This is one of the greatest action figures ever. So these are our good cop Judys, the good figures, and that kind of leaves us with the leftovers. The Funko figures, the Tomy figures, and the interesting Nuemo experiment by Disney here. But thankfully, this video will be super outdated in just a year, and it makes me so happy to say that Zootopia 2 is on the way and will hopefully give us new action figures and new merchandise. So that was the great Judy action figure marathon. That's all I have to say for today. Thanks for watching and have a happily ever after. But let's be real, Judy Hopps does not even hold a candle to the best bunny cop, the officer from Hop. Who remembers this movie? This is the tactical pink beret trooper. And I don't know about you, but she would like whoop Judy's butt any day.